Welcome to Studio 19 in Sandy, Utah at Telarus headquarters. I'm happy today to welcome Curt Allen, the SVP of Channel Chief for Vonage, with us today. Curt, you want to say hi to the folks out there?
Hello, everyone. Good to see you, Roger. It's always a pleasure to see you coming from that shiny studio. You're looking pretty fancy there, but great to be with everyone today. I appreciate the opportunity.
We're having some fun here in the studio. Thank you. We do a few of these segments, but this is one of my favorites. I'm thrilled to catch up with you and see you joining in a new position in the channel. Why don't you tell us just about the transition you went through just recently?
Well, I'll tell you that this wasn't supposed to be the way this year was going to go. I had booked 9 music festivals for this year, and as part of my last engagement, I had a run rate of about a year where I wasn't supposed to actively be in the business. Then Jazz Fest got canceled, Bonnaroo got canceled, Halloween got canceled, Lock-In got canceled, 420 got canceled. I realized it wasn't going to be the year of the music festival. I was driving my wife absolutely nuts, so I started answering the telephone a little bit, and a handful of interesting opportunities came up. But when the dust settled, I just looked at the Vonage opportunity as both the perfect place for me to jump into at the stage of my career, as far as being able to make an impact and being able to really kind of move the needle with a brand. And also, I felt like the position that they had in mind and what they were talking about doing, I was the perfect fit for it. So it really felt synergistic. So it was just too compelling. I was able to negotiate an amicable exit from my last entanglement, and here I am.
I love the phrase "last entanglement." That is spectacular. But and we're going to get into that a little bit about how lucky Vonage is to have you and what a statement it makes about the type of company it is. But before we jump into that, I'm just curious. I always like to start these segments off of, we're in a strange world these days and things are happening. And my most promising observation is the way people have stepped up and supported each other and really been unique in the way they've been willing to help both their employees and their customers. You saw obviously from an outside view at Vonage and then moved in, but maybe tell us some of the humanitarian part. What are the things that you're seeing that are keeping you positive and encouraged about the way we're handling this as a society?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because I was talking to my son about that recently. If you watch the news, you would think that the world is burning and people are being unkind to each other at every turn. And certainly there's some things going on in the world today that we need to address as a society. And there's people that are certainly properly aggrieved inside that. But what I see every day is people going out of their way, both people and corporations, large companies, small companies, really bending over backwards to accommodate employees, to continue to try to be productive. I saw, here we work in kind of the UCAS, CCAS space, and it would have been tempting to try to do like profit grabbing and say, hey, everybody needs these work from home things. Let's like creep the price up and do those things. What I saw were companies just facilitating services so that medical practices could continue to go on, that schools could run seamlessly, and that as many people as possible could be productive from home or from anywhere they were. So I'm with you. I'm an optimist on I think people are good.
I think people are good, right? And I've been amazed at just the willingness to figure this out and go through this and work from home. Certainly that's had an impact on our industry and our business, and your reputation precedes you, and any company that was lucky enough to land you are going to be thrilled and excited. So let's get back into that conversation about why Vonage and what were those factors you saw that made it the logical landing place for you as you started to answer the phone. And there's people out there going, why didn't we call him? Why didn't we call him? So tell us about that answer and just what those factors were.
Well, there's a couple of things at play. First, my background. I spent more time in a seat that looked like yours than I have even running carrier businesses. I've been on both sides of the fence. And as a partner, when Vonage came to market, and then as a friendly competitor the last few years, as Vonage was really maturing, and especially in the kind of business services side, and certainly in the channel, I always felt like this was a brand that was ready to explode. I felt like the potential, with a couple of the correct decisions, both from a technology standpoint, and then even more simply from a program standpoint and a commitment from the company, I really felt like it was an underperforming brand. I felt like it was misunderstood because of their roots in residential. And I watched as they layered things on to this communication stack and went beyond what anyone else was doing. Because certainly, UCaaS and now CCaaS are principal stakes in this stack. But to then jump to the API layer and have API-driven video and audio links that completely change the way people can deploy these services. For me, I was like, that's the company that's really going to turn the UCaaS space from a platform back to voice play, as opposed to the kind of PBX replacement that you and I saw for years growing up. So that opportunity, I thought, was the product sets, the technology, the development. I felt it was a can't miss, and I felt it was misunderstood in the market, that people didn't realize how much of an enterprise play it was and how it technologically advanced that stack was. Then you couple that with a company that, because of those legacy roots, is trading in stock market at like a 2.2 multiple, when our peers are trading 5, 10, 20x multiples because they're seen as software companies. The majority of our business is coming from those services, those same services that Wall Street covets. So, financially and from an equity standpoint, every employee in the company at Vonage has equity, which is dynamite. So everybody's vested in that. I felt that there was an opportunity, and hint, I bet heavily on this side of my compensation package, but I felt there's an opportunity to really move the company forward from a shareholder value perspective. That combination is deadly. And then, I'll throw the third thing in. Mario Dirigi, my predecessor, had spent 2 years really transforming Vonage from a company that had a really robust, strong direct sales force and wanted to leverage channel to a channel-first organization. So the foundation's there for me to build on, and the commitment from inside the company, especially our outgoing CEO, Al Mazarak, and the new CEO, Rory Reed, are pot committed to channel. So, those three things, made it really compelling for me, Roger.
Well, that's amazing, and you opened up some different questions there. So because you brought it up, the performance in the stock market, being a public company, what are the benefits you get from that, and maybe what are some of the challenges that you're dealing with or facing as an organization?
Well, I did get publicly traded company 101 at my last stop, so I do understand. Certainly in any publicly traded company, when you look at who your stakeholders are in any business, you guys can really define your stakeholders. They're your employees, they're your partners, they're your owners. Those are your stakeholders. When you're publicly traded, your stakeholders are a lot more diverse. Your board of directors has a fiduciary responsibility to help you make decisions that are going to drive shareholder value. And sometimes, as an operator, those decisions don't necessarily feel intuitive to growing a long-term business. So that's a general observation about being in a publicly traded company. I think the good news with us is I think being publicly traded, and in my opinion, significantly undervalued, it gives us the resources to make the changes in the business so that we can be looked at as a software play, that we can start talking about things like Rule of 40, as far as EBITDA contribution plus compound annual growth rate, trying to get to that 40 number and really change the way we're seen. So we'll deliver, straight shareholder value in building a more profitable business, but we're going to get multiples in the perception by the street just because of the way they look at companies as we transition to that.
So is that how you would define that transition, as you're moving from maybe a more carrier-based company to a software company? Is that how you quantify that internally?
And that's something, speaking kind of my personal opinion outside looking in, but I think it's pretty clear that we have a drag on us from the residential, the marketing would kill me, but the the old, residential commercial side that was super small business, micro small business, down to residential. So, you have the street and analysts who cover our business. They haven't necessarily moved us. No matter what we do with Gartner, we move into the leader quadrant in Europe on CCaaS. We move into the emerging quadrant on CCaaS in North America, and they still classify us as like an SMB residential play because there's still by the way, it's really profitable, that old residential play. It spins off a ton of cash, but it does change kind of how we're viewed in the from a shareholder perspective.
Yeah, I can see the challenges there, but again, being the underdog sometimes pays off well, so we'll see how that goes. Before we jump into the technology, the leadership changes. What are you excited about as you go through this transition? Alan's a great guy, and your other Mario, I couldn't agree more. Spectacular to work with him. What do you see going through there? And just give the audience a feel for what that leadership change means.
Well, at a couple of levels. At the top, when I heard that Alan Mazurak was leaving, I actually tapped the brakes because Alan was the guy I had a relationship with, and I was, quite frankly, really excited about working, for him and being mentored by him. I think he's, one of the best CEOs who's ever kind of dipped into our industry. A guy who came from Google and really kind of, learned our space because he was malleable. He'll tell you that he was wrong, that he should have leveraged the channel harder, and that we gave Ring and Aid a head start on that. But he's a good enough leader that he understood 2-3 years later to pivot on that. And so I was kind of sad that Alan was leaving, and I actually indicated to Rodolfo Cardenuto, my boss, who's president of applications, dynamite guy, by the way, and super sharp guy. He worked with Bill McDermott at SAP. I mean, unbelievable pedigree. But you think I have energy, Roger? This guy has, he has energy. And so Rodolfo and Alan both called me and said, "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, it sounds like a little too much turmoil." And then beep beep, all of a sudden they're like, "I hear Rory Reed." So now I'm sitting on the dock with my dogs, and I've got Rodolfo Cardenuto, Alan Mazurak, and Rory Reed, who just got through doing what is the largest technology merger. Ran the merger of Dell EMC, the largest tech merger in our history, and so it's certainly a big player. He gets on. He knows about you guys. He's spoken to Adam. He's spoken to Alan Sandler. He's spoken to the guys at Intelisys, and he's like basically coming in saying, "I can't miss on my first hire, and I'm told by everyone we talk to that you're the guy. You've got to take this job," like just passionately. And my wife is watching me. I'm like, I hung the phone up, and she's like, "You're taking the Vonage job, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, I am." But so that leadership, like. It sounds, and there's been, I'm the first one to admit, especially in the channel, we've had too much change. And my commitment to the guys as I came in here is that I've had one job in my career that was less than 10 years, and it was because the company I worked for went bankrupt. It's not a badge of courage I wear, but my point is I don't jump into things I'm not looking for the next job. I don't want Rodolfo's job. I want to crush this job, build this channel, make everybody who works for me wildly successful, do it with kindness, hopefully extract some joy out of the thing, add value to the partners that have built my career, the folks, your sub-agents and all the other folks around the country, the ultimate sellers who are the reason I've, had a modicum of success in this thing. So I know I'm pot committed. I know Rory Reed isn't coming in here from Dell EMC, to dip his toe in it. And I know Rodolfo's all in. So I feel like even though we're all relatively new, Rodolfo's just inside of a year, I'm 3 weeks and a day, and Rory started 13 days before me. It's the most stable, brand new leadership I can imagine. We're all kind of running in the same direction, hitting on all cylinders.
Well, it's a big statement to have that kind of prowess come in as your leaders, for sure. We called this the year of transformation before we knew what it was going to be. We came into it with focusing on digital transformation and some of those things. And as we've gone through that, we added a charity component to all of our events because we want to transform our communities, things like that. As you look at transformation, I look at Vonage and I see them trying to transform some of the stories they tell. And one of those is really a move into their contact center space. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what that technology means and why you logically fit in that group, maybe more than what you described earlier, that home phone system that people. By the way, I'm going to clip out you making that woohoo noise, and that's going to be my ringtone if I'm at all successful. So, but no, why don't you tell us just about that contact center space and what you're doing there?
Well, so that the purchase of New Voice Media was huge. So that was a company that basically owned the Salesforce integration contact center market in Europe, and so we picked up that piece. And literally, since we added that on and bolted that on, integrated it with our service, when we get into a customer and Salesforce is their underlying CRM, and CRM integration is a big deal in all of these things. I've seen the white papers you guys have written on it. Like it's the contact center is being thought of as a bolt-on to CRM and a bolt-on to UCaaS. It's really becoming a suite of services. So that purchase was huge for us. So we came into the marketplace and we're winning more than 50% of the deals that we get in where Salesforce is the underlying CRM. So you don't have to be brilliant to know, what we need to do is we need to continue to leverage that. But then what's next? Who are the other platforms? So now we've completed the integration with ServiceNow. So if we can leverage that kind of the dominance that we have in Salesforce with ServiceNow, holy smokes, now we pick up even more breadth in the market. And then Microsoft Dynamics we've already got most of the integration done. We're integrated with Teams. We're working up through Dynamics. You finish that, now you've got the top 3 CRMs. We've got a world where a customer who had a hunt group yesterday has a contact center today because no one can go back into their offices. So, what we define as contact center has completely changed. It's literally an extension. The way that a phone call like this, adding video to a phone call, is really just becoming the extension of a phone call. Contact center is becoming an extension of that suite. We need to be able to work from anywhere. We need to be able to service our customers from anywhere. And then you pull contact center in, but that's not even the whole story, Roger. Because again, this video call, this is dynamite. It's one-to-one. The two of us sit here and we talk. We don't have huge security concerns. We put together a link here, and you needed to have the link to get in, and that's great. But what about the physician who can't bring patients in anymore? Like, this isn't enough. There's not enough security here. He has HIPAA concerns. That's where like the API-driven video hookup comes in. So now we basically can allow people to stay in their same platform end to end. Now contact center becomes a vehicle to get us up into the API layer, and it all works back down through UCaaS. And that's the logic of the stack that I think our competitors are going to try to run up into that. They're coming up with ways to kind of bolt that together today. But I think all of us understand that the way that we view contact center and how important that is in the center of that communication stack, there's no denying it.
Well, that's powerful, right? I often say we're picking platforms for features we don't know exist yet because they haven't been written yet. So go with the company that has the platform that can deliver you the things as the market changes and adapts. So speaking of work from anywhere and everybody going home and trying maybe a giant experiment, right? Let's all go work from home and see what happens.
Right.
What other trends do you see either from that or other trends you're noticing that are going to direct where Vonage takes the business?
Well, I think it's like work from anywhere is almost too simple a nomenclature. We used to call it virtual office, then it was work from home, and I'm like in my history. So since 1990, I've worked in a physical office 13 months, and as you know, I had a master agency for 13 years. We were completely virtual. We closed our last physical office like 3 years in. So I'm the perfect spokesperson for kind of living in the work from anywhere thing. But it's the work from anywhere now there has to be an agility there. Because I need to be able to be in the office on Tuesday and home on Wednesday, and that has to be seamless. I need to be able to access all my applications. So it's like it should be like work from anywhere, anytime. Like the agility that we need now. It's not as simple as being able to plug in your laptop and put a headset into the side of it and do meetings like this. It goes well beyond that for us to continue to be efficient. And it's not always work from anywhere. It's study from anywhere. It's service your customers from anywhere. It's service your patients from anywhere. Like, the telehealth and education marketplaces are suddenly screaming towards us. Like they're never known as the most agile technology-wise in the medical field. It was mostly because of, there were the HIPAA requirements and some of the other regulatory things that made it difficult for them to be super agile about where their data was. But education being, mostly municipal, always kind of a slow mover. Well, that digital transformation you referenced early, COVID just poured kerosene on that, didn't it?
Oh, without question. All of a sudden, the things that were in the way got out of the way, right? That now we have to go clean some of that up and figure some of that out. So, you said you're virtual. You have been virtual as long as I've known you, probably. But a lot of companies weren't, right? They weren't ready to send everybody home, and now they've committed to things, or they think they've committed to things. What advice would you give companies as they get ready to establish how they're going to go through their technology and make sure they made the right decisions in urgent moments, and how to, what are their focus areas? Give them some business advice on how to guide their customers through that.
So, and I'm going to answer that question as an operator versus the channel chief of Vonage, because I think it's that important. I think it's that general, and I do think because of my experience, I can speak to it a little bit. I think the mistake we make when we have to deploy or choose to deploy our folks in a remote fashion is we're worried about their willingness and ability to be productive in a virtual environment. And I think we miss that completely. I think, we're in a state, we're so efficient now. We run around with, this super powerful computer in our back pocket and a laptop. I've got 2 laptops and another monitor, and we've got all this, crazy technology that allows us to do, 20 times what we could do when we were on a beeper and a payphone. Yes, I'm that old, 30 years ago.
Ouch.
But so like the people are going to do their jobs. We're in a competitive marketplace. If we give them the tools and we as operators create processes and accountabilities that make it logical for people to do their jobs, they're going to do their jobs. The biggest challenge when I look at organizations that fail is in leadership. If you have leaders who can't get their brains around the fact that they can't see and touch their people, every day and kind of quantify the work they're doing by, seeing them in conference rooms and all that, that's the challenge. Is you have to trust your people, you have to trust your systems and processes, and you have to, enforce accountability in a way that incentivizes people to do the next right thing. And we open the conversation about how we think people are good. I also think people are really hardworking. I think that if we put the right incentives in place, people want to flourish. I mean, human beings are happy in utility. They want to be of use. They want to be successful. And so I think the onus is on us as leaders versus, that frontline employee.
That's interesting advice our partners should be giving their customers is how do you go just to adopt this and not worry about the things that you can't control, but know that people will perform. Speaking of performance, one of the things about Vonage is they've been channel friendly for a long time, if not always.
Right.
I've seen their investment increase year after year for several years now. Why don't you tell us about the channel approach from Vonage and any updates there that the partners would be interested in?
So we basically about 2 years ago shifted from kind of an ink wins world to basically lead sources. So now we look at there's direct sourced. So we do have direct salespeople who will source deals directly. We have marketing sourced, which is our internal folks that are smiling and dialing, kind of teeing up opportunities that we distribute both to our inside, to our salespeople, our inside salespeople, I guess all three, and even our channel partners. And then the third category is a channel sourced lead. We don't distinguish between those financially. We basically take the resources at bear. So today you come to us with a 400 seat deal through Taylor, who's been supporting Telarus back before Vonage was Vonage, for one of the predecessors. You bring an opportunity to him. He's going to align with a regional channel manager who works in that marketplace, who then is going to access a direct seller, subject matter expert, and a sales engineer to put forward a team to go close that deal. And we're not cutting commissions for the partner based on those resources. We're going to take the resources at bear in a channel agnostic fashion, and we're going to go execute the deal on behalf of the partner and the customer. So that was a shift because we used to have competing markets, and so we don't do that anymore. Then I'm going to come in and dance in the end zone on this, and by the end of the year. But a partner portal that Mario Dirigi and Rhonda Ralph, who runs program management for us, have been really pushing the ball forward, is getting really close to the finish line. It's serviceable now, it's workable now, but there's gaps in it. But we've got a couple of really important features coming out here in August, and then the Salesforce integration and a completely new compensation module that will be pulled into that, so that commissions will become fully automated and those types of things. That'll all be here by year end. So we'll go from what was probably a C+ partner portal to an industry leader from a feature and functionality standpoint. Which is good. And again, the people that work for us. I mean, we've got a level of talent. I've got 4 or 5 guys on this team who threw their hat in the ring for my job, and quite frankly, 4 or 5 of them were all really good candidates for it. And fortunately, they knew me and were excited about the fact of working with me here, so they didn't get up and run. But we've got a stable of super talented people on every side of the organization, but the channel in particular.
Yeah, the channel. Your staff is incredible to work with, and always get high reviews. And hiring a formal somebody who's been in the channel and run a master agency, I can't imagine a bigger statement towards the focus and direction that brings somebody that understands that.
I don't want to miss that either. Like I hate, because me, I'm not sitting here like trying to pat myself on the back, but that is I am uniquely qualified because of that. The 13 years that I spent managing partners and managing carrier relationships, and did it, and he worked alongside me and competed with me back then too. But always respected the carrier's position in the deal. Always felt like they were partners well, and then obviously valued the sales partner and the customer relationship through that. And really felt like it was these 3 entities: the customer, the partner, and the provider, running in the same direction to get to the right solution, for the customer. And so I never felt it was antagonistic. And so the beauty of that is, as I go back out to the market with guys like you who knew me, that's how I operate. So we get to you get to run with the assumption that I know I have a general idea of how you feel about something because I sat in your chair.
You at least very understanding for sure. I was surprised as we went through some of the pandemic rush home. I had partners call me and say, "Is it too late? Is it too late to sell UCaaS?" And the perception was maybe they missed a critical boat. What advice? And we said not at all. Our adoption rate's not nearly there. But what advice would you give a partner that maybe hasn't jumped in as rapidly as others? What give them some advice on how they get started and why it's still a critical place to be.
Well, I mean, if you're not selling UCaaS today, you're late, certainly. I mean, because we've known for the last couple of years, every opportunity where voice is tied to it, UCaaS is either the solution or one of these solutions. So you're late. But to your point, we're still like sub 50% adoption. Like, and depending on who you talk to, some people have it significantly below 50% adoption. Up through kind of mid markets and enterprise. So anything where there's that much opportunity and it's that big, you're never too late. And at the end of the day, if you understand, if you're a chunker, you understand PBX signaling and PRI signaling and all that, UCaaS is actually a lot more logical. It's not complex. And then you get up to contact center, because remember that as a service, the beauty of that is it makes guys like me who are not very technological, it makes me a lot smarter because it's more about what it does than how it does it. Like, we don't have to get into, you don't have to understand signaling to sell UCaaS and CCaaS. You have to understand how to have a business conversation with your customer, understand their needs. You have to be able to sell past the IT director out to the VP of marketing, the VP of sales, the CFO, understand that this is a financial purchase, that this is a physical plant purchase, this is a marketing purchase, and we get into CRM and all that. This is their sales org purchase. At the end of the day, it's a business decision the customer is going to make about a communication suite. As wide as you want to get. If you can ask them questions and find out what they need, there's a bunch of really good providers, Vonage included, that can get you there.
That's incredible. All right, let's get you in trouble. But since you're new, you probably can tell us maybe some things you're not supposed to know. But any cool product updates you got coming our way? Anything we should be watching for or Twitter pated about the release?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I referenced CCaaS and the enhancements we have there to CRM integrations with Microsoft Dynamics and ServiceNow, in addition to obviously the dominance we have on Salesforce. But that's certainly a big deal. But also another area that we're making massive strides is on World Office, which is an expansion of our international strategy, which is we're playing a little bit of catch up there. But I think folks think we're a lot more limited there than we are. Like, we're now linking instances, so you can be in different countries and on the same instance. So your customers here in the States who have folks, and it's 20 countries now, it'll be 40 countries soon. They can be on your instance, and we can link and all that. And then VBC International will be coming out later this year, which will allow instances to originate in Europe. Where that new voice media purchase, we've got a significant presence in Europe now. So I have channel managers covering Europe and Australia, New Zealand. We've got a channel program that started in Canada that I've got folks up there. We're looking at doing some stuff in Asia Pac. So the global reach of what we're doing, I think is so. If the two things I would say is the enhancements to our CRM integrations, meaning wider, that we'll have all of the top three deeply integrated, and then our international reach, and that's evolving and coming through. And then I don't want to undersell the partner pool. That's really going to make us easier to do business with across.
If they haven't looked at the partner pool, they should for sure. All right, so you've said it a couple of times. You worked for a competitor. You were our favorite competitor, things like that. Talk to me about the Telarus Vonage partnership. We've been number one with you numerous times, if not currently right now. I think we are. But we've always been at your leaderboard. Talk to me about that partnership. So, I mean, first of all, there's a deep personal relationship that I'm, very good friends, obviously, with a lot of you guys over there, you included. You and I have, spent a lot of, fun times together. But, there's a leader-to-leader connection there that there's, any Telarus sub needs to know that there's 5 or 6 people who have, my personal cell phone number or my work cell phone number, and I answer both of them. As you've never had trouble getting in touch with me. So just the connection we all have personally and professionally, I think that adds value. There's value in being a Telarus sub because of the access
you're going to have to all of us. But when you get down to the reason why I have no trouble selling that internally and expanding on it is because, quite frankly, you guys are the biggest partner that we have. That you've been our number one producer the last 2 years. You have our number one base. If we dug back, like I believe it's 4 of the last 5 years, you were the top producer. We were kind of pushing numbers around, so don't publish that or anything. But it's right there. And when you haven't been, you've been right there. I mean, there's basically, I'm sure people could guess who they are. There's 3 of you that are kind of neck and neck, that are those $1 million plus partners with ours, and you guys are right there. Now, I think the difference is that you guys have been committed with us from day one. That you dug in right out of the gate. So when I talk to people who have been here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, those are the folks that really have an affinity for the Telarus relationship, because you didn't wait for someone else to get on the dance floor. You had a good base with a company that we acquired, and you had a great relationship with Taylor, who was managing the relationship for them and then was managing the relationship for us. By the way, all these years later, he still is. And so we just never missed a beat there. So, there's no underselling that personal and professional, the relationship's as good as it possibly could be.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and it's very much reciprocated. We have an incredible relationship with you. We were thrilled to see you go somewhere that we don't have to call you a competitor anymore. That we get to truly, when we're on your boat, and we don't have to pretend like we're not there because we're competing. But we're thrilled with the way that goes. As we start to wrap up and get ready, what I've heard is and I'm going to try to summarize this, and then I'll let you correct it. But as a company, you've decided to move from carrier to software and really pull on your strengths of having this platform of technologies that can be plugged together to achieve a new result, with a focus on the channel to deliver it, and from an unparalleled investment and leadership team that's going to enable massive growth, that's going to have results that have been long waited for and overdue and coming. And so that combined with our partnership, I think this is just an excellent time for everybody either to double down on Vonage or take a look at Vonage if they're not. And obviously, your leadership is gonna massively impact that. So, is that close to what you're trying to say today, or maybe clean up anything I missed?
And I'll just give you I'll just put a little point on it for you that I'll tell any partner listening to this. If you're in a deal and contact center is important, and your customer has Salesforce today as an underlying CRM, and then ServiceNow today as an underlying CRM, and I'll be able to say this in 3 weeks or so, Microsoft Dynamics now as an underlying CRM, and you don't look at Vonage, you're taking a big chance, because we've got a real good shot of winning that business. So definitely go there. And as far as channel commitment, one of our competitors had their earnings call yesterday, and the summaries came out, and they crushed it. They had just announced tremendous earnings. And so Rory Reed, our new CEO, sent it out to the leadership team. And his 3 keys to us getting to that kind of a multiple and succeeding in this space were channel, channel, channel. So, I mean, this is it. This is going to drive the ship.
Well, that says it all. I'm going to need a copy of that just so I can tout that going forward. But, Curt, thank you so much for being here. Partners, if you haven't given Vonage a look, you should. Thanks for being part of our race to the summit, and how behind the desk scene is going to drive people to help win that. We're actually giving the Tesla away pretty soon, so this will probably be published in season 2. Make sure you're going after that and educating yourselves. Stay safe out there. Curt, thank you so much for being here. And without further ado, that's a wrap from Studio.T in Telarus headquarters in Sandy, Utah. Thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you in person soon.